Poem by Rumi. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They are in each other all along. That last line, interesting. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They are in each other all along. I'm pushing 3 planes. Out of the infinite variety of planes, I'm just pushing 3. One is what we would call the ego plane, and that will include the physical, mental, and emotional bodies. Then we'll call the second one the soul plane, and that will include the way in which you are a somebody awareness. You're still somebody. You are an entity with unique karma. And the third plane is the plane of pure awareness, which is really not a plane, but we'll use the word planes now. We could use spheres, but we'll just use planes for fun. Don't think that planes mean higher is better. They're just different from one another. So if I were to review our storyline thus far from, let's say, the soul's point of view, the middle level, I would say I had some business to do, which we will call karma, some ill-digested attachments, aversions and attractions. And that karma led to the manifestation of me in a physical form. In other words, I took birth in an incarnation. And when I was born, I was still fully out there with my karma to run through, of course. But that karma involved a certain experience of socialization. And in that process, I knew ultimately of my separateness. I experienced my separateness from God or from all or from something. In other words, I began to get attached to the form in which I had manifested. I'm now speaking as a soul. Now, as I get sort of encrusted into a form, there is a kind of a moment of incredible fear when the form starts to solidify enough so there's a boundary, so there is a form and other. There is and other. You pinch your toe and you pinch the bedpost and they're different, and you keep pinching and pinching and pinching and pinching, and you're learning that's me and that's not me, or something like that. Now, it can be as early as when you get born, when you leave the womb. It could be that separation. Or it could be the separation when you first experience sucking and there's no milk coming. That is, when you experience the separateness so that the universe isn't all one thing anymore. There's an awareness that there's something separate. You have separated. And you have gotten caught in a part of the universe rather than the awareness you are the whole universe. So you have, what Gurdjieff talks about, been imprisoned by your own mind in some way. I mean, this is the mind that's done this. Because the hunger was so strong and it wasn't being fulfilled and there was pain, and these learnings are very deep when there is an emotional component to them. And most of us got very deeply socialized into being somebody, into our incarnation. When you take an incarnation, it's like getting into a spacesuit, and the whole program for running that spacesuit on this plane of existence, physical, mental, emotional, that whole mechanism is something that is like software in the system, and it has to be developed. And that happens through your DNA code, through your socialization process, through all the people you meet and talk to. But notice an interesting thing, that your whole sense of separateness is really rooted from some uncomfortable experience of being separate. In other words, you didn't jump into separateness as a celebration for the most part. You were kind of pushed into separateness. Maybe you would have jumped a moment later, and maybe you did jump, and that's just the experience you had was one of pushing against it. Because you obviously did, and I did. But the other day, when I was thinking back over all of this in my life, I can experience the power of my mother to deliver milk to me and keep me dry and warm and loved. I traced how the separation from my ability to be that, so that I got into separateness, so that I tried to control it. As soon as you become somebody, you get into a power thing, because as a somebody, as a baby, you're awfully little. And the forces around you are very big. And so I somehow experience in myself, having experienced the pain of separateness and having not the power to control that I couldn't get what I wanted when I wanted it, once I became a somebody who wanted something. And I only became the somebody who wanted something because I didn't have what I wanted all the time. I hadn't even had a want up until then. I had to learn wants, by the way. And really, most of my life, from all my education, because these were all surrogates for that power person that held the control of my being, I developed, as you did, incredible skills of looking into other people's eyes to know who you were. Am I good? Am I enough? Am I achieving? Am I successful? Am I beautiful? Am I fulfilling? Am I attractive? Am I smart enough? Whatever judgmental thing you imposed on yourself, and I on myself. And I kept trying to be satisfied all the time through various things. But notice how all of it, all of my separateness was built on relationship. My relationship with my mother, with my father, with my surrogates, with all of the things that then became so on. And how much the whole web of what I call my ego is basically relational. I guess I would have continued to be that somebody, having then been trained, as you know, in somebody's specialness, just like you were. So we aren't just somebody, we're somebody special. And then we all go around being somebody special, and we form relationships based on our specialness and their specialness. And we look for symbiosis around our specialness. And it's all very dramatic. It's all as the world turns, and it's all so poignantly, beautifully horrible. And so thick, and everybody's in it right up to their eyeballs. And does she, does he, will they, won't they, can I, can't I, what will he think if I do? Oh, yeah, yeah. Hello, goodbye, I miss you, I love you, go away. And it's all relational stuff. Just look at your language, your concepts, all of it. It's so thick. You keep saying, I want to be alone. Don't kid yourself. You don't want to be alone. You wouldn't exist. Funny way, you only exist relationally at that level. It's the funny thing about the ego, how deeply it is in relationships. And that's why I got interested in what happened in the 60s, when a certain thing culminated that was kind of bubbling around in the history of the culture, which was the undivided loyalty to individualism. After fascism and communism, we got into individualism, a new ism. What's in it for me? Am I growing? Who am I? What do I need? What do I want? What do I desire? Almost a worship of our somebodyness. I have a right to be somebody. And that came out of years of feeling you didn't. Of carrying around the feeling I'm powerless and something I'm wrong because I'm not the whole universe like I used to be, which you experienced as a baby. It must be incredibly painful. The moment not just of physical birth, but of psychological birth, of the experience of separateness as an entity when you have been the whole thing. I've described in many lectures the experience in Hawaii with that community of meditators